This is James Robinson
Hello.
of Canyon Creek. Alright, let's get started.
Sure.
Yeah. So, College of the Canyons recently had its active shooter drill on the Valencia campus. This drill is meant to better prepare its students in the event of a mass shooting. Teachers in every classroom were cautioned to lock their doors and talk with their students about preventative measures. Though the test is meant to prepare students in the event of such a tragedy, many students come out with the same response. Nobody took it seriously. After the drill itself, I've noted that this is a social issue that society needs to address. The short drills during high school and college are rare measures that leave students at risk. After gathering statistical data proving that school shootings are still social issues on the rise, I've been conducting a claim which suggests that there is still much to be done when it comes to preventative action. There are a number of solutions in which the issue could be addressed, both before and during this type of situation. But first, I would like to hear your side and your opinions and views on the issue itself.
Yeah, the issue itself for me, I'm conflicted on it, only in the sense that I think you're either on the preventative side or the reactionary side. The reactionary side is always, never think it's going to be you. It's your school. It's happening. You take whatever measures you can the day of it's happening. Preventative side, which is I think the side we'd all like to see, is what's really the problem. Is it mental health? Is it our schools, just the environment of schools, is it too difficult for the students? Is it something that needs to be addressed, and maybe why these situations are happening at schools in the first place? Which to me, I believe it obviously, the thing I see most is kids are complaining they don't have a way to have a voice, whether it be with a counselor, another student, and they're carrying either some type of resentment around or some bad feeling that they hold on for many years. And so I work in schools as well with some of my programs. And when we work with the students, one of the biggest topics is there's no one to talk to.
No one to talk to.
Counselors aren't available, and when they are available, they have so many students that their time is limited.
It's hard to focus and hone in on each individual.
Right, and how do you know how bad the problem is with that single individual to know that this could turn into something a lot worse later on? I don't even know if schools have a mental health person on staff,
It depends on the school. Our campus itself actually they put a lot of work into setting up that type of institution where, students could go for free. I mean, it comes with they're able to visit 6 times during each semester, which was great that they implemented that, but it's still lacking in many schools.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting to me is why is it happening at schools? Why is it? It seems to happen more at schools than it does at businesses. When it happens in the city, it's terrorism usually. When it's in the schools, it's a situation of usually mental health or something. I would love to be on the preventative side, which I think we should put more resources into evaluating students, not waiting for a student to come to a mental health professional or a counselor or another person, but get out to the students more on the front lines and make sure that we're checking in with the students and that everyone's good. These campuses are huge.
They are.
They're 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 students. It's almost a setup to fail, because how do you know how everyone's doing?
It's true. No, it's true.
Most businesses are, you're lucky if you have 100 people working in a business. So you do have a time to evaluate everybody's condition. You have a chance to check in with people in the morning. And it just seems like on the school level that's not happening. As far as on the reactionary side, I would like to see the schools get to the point of the airports if we're going to try to put it to a stop.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to try to figure out which student is going to have that day or which person is going to come on campus that day, then we need to protect the campuses in a way that we protect the airports. Check everybody every day, and have the same precautions.
Would you say we should, because there are schools in other states that implement scanning security when it comes to similar with airports? Do you feel that most schools should have those?
100%. I realize that there's a cost in that.
It is
and
costly.
it's a huge cost, and probably a cost that the state doesn't want to get behind, the federal government doesn't want to get behind, and where does it stop? If you start doing it at schools, do you have to do it at every public location?
School. And what grade level will
Yeah.
it stop at
Yeah,
as well?
exactly, because it doesn't seem like there's a bottom, as far as age goes, and there's not one on the top. So, it's almost like if we want it to stop happening at schools on that side of the fence, where we're not going to get to the students because we can't get to every student, but we're going to protect the school, I think you got to go that direction.
Oh yeah.
Because I go to the schools and they're doing a much better job in today's world than they're doing years ago before the shootings were so prevalent. In that today there might be one point of entry at the school or a couple points of entry, and then it goes into like a lock phase, during the school
so there
hours.
are less entrances as well.
Less possibilities. I think we got to take that like 10 steps further at whatever cost the school can afford. If it's locking gates and making it like a prison, that's okay if the safety of everyone in there is being attended to. I think the idea that we're going to put a resource officer or a police department on the campus and we're going to figure out which student is having is very loose-ended. Like I don't know how, no matter if you have facial recognition, if you had all the devices, I don't know how you pick the student that's going to do it. They don't seem to be able to do that.
It is difficult, and that is a major issue when it comes to these type of shootings is surveillance. Even students who show sort of responses toward violence, they're more than likely to be ignored as it's just a guy thing, a boy thing. And that's something that they use a lot. Oh, guys talk about violence.
Right.
But if it's a continuation type of thing, which a lot of these instances and cases, it's repetitive. It's something that should be better surveyed. And I feel like security, that's one of their primary objectives when it comes to being there.
The reason I use the airport as an example is they have all that technology and they're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
And their record seems to be pretty darn good since 9/11 or since they put the TSA in effect that we're not having people slip through security.
Exactly.
So yes, there are red flags on people. Yes, there's a history there, but I think there's too many of those histories to follow. Like that there's situations, how would you be able to pick which one would then turn into something like an active shooter situation?
Exactly.
And then if that's the case, do you really have the resources to follow up on every lead? So to me, it's a situation of, are we going to get to every student before these situations happen and look for, I guess, a cure? Or are we going to look at making a school or an institution as safe as possible and still try to do the other things, but limit the exposure?
Limit the exposure.
Which means nobody can walk through a fence or a wall or and walk onto a campus and have these situations arise. My feelings are there's a lot to be done, but you have to take a side. Which one do you want to do? Do you want to get it without the prison-like schools, which is lockdowns and searches and scans and things like that? Or do you want to go to that saying we're not going to be able to get to everybody, so we got to protect ourselves, and this is how we'll do it, so.
Just the drills, lock the doors, turn off the lights. That's the most prepared we are, and it's the most prepared teachers are in the event of that type of situation as well. The drills, they're exposed to the same drills we are at the same time. They're receiving the same information that we receive as students at the same time. I feel like even as teachers, they should be more aware, or there should be some type of course to train them to protect students in that type of event. Because
So we do earthquake drills, right?
yeah,
And we haven't had an earthquake in a long
in
time.
a very long time.
But the chances of your reactions will be that you did it and you know to get under a desk or get into a doorway, or those preventative measures of doing, like you said, the drill and the students not taking it seriously. Hopefully they will have learned the reaction, which is lock the door, or you've seen the student try to disarm the person. I mean, I don't necessarily say that's the best way, but hopefully these drills, whether taken seriously or not, will create the immediate reaction, which would be whatever that learned reaction was during the drill. The reaction of the lockdown, or the reaction of the students with the active shooter, there's something has to be working. But we're never going to, I mean, we're still doing the earthquake drill to get under the table. It seems pretty simple, but an active shooter drill has so many more components to it than getting under a table.
Very true.
Or turning the lights off or locking a door. Like you say, how do we then take, because a lot of times the students think it's firecrackers. It's a loud noise they can't identify. It's such a shock that they just don't even know what they're listening to.
Exactly. Panic comes in, but of course the drills have prepared for that type of situation to a certain extent, to where the panic comes in, but that list of guidelines and rules prepared them to the best of their abilities.
Right. Whether they took it seriously or not, I think you still got to run them. We still do earthquake drills, we still do fire drills, and you could easily say, hey, we got those, we understand, we've been doing them since first grade.
True.
But when it happens, you need to know what
to do.
And not everybody. I've gone to campuses where they'll do the lockdowns. Everyone's on the blacktop or the athletic field, but there's chaos in getting the students released. And to me, that's a risk too.
That is a risk. Yeah.
How do they get picked up? How are they kept safe during that time? And so if we don't take them seriously and we don't take the drills seriously, the harm of just something happening in that chaos can definitely be a problem.
I agree.
We also, we don't know. They often are very good at reacting to where the shooters are or how many people it is, but we haven't seen something on a mass level where there's multiple problems, and you think you're good. How do you know when you're good? You wait till the police officer comes in. So the drills need to happen no matter what, in my opinion. And whether the students take it seriously or not, it wouldn't change for me if I was an administrator, whether we run them. We have to run them.
You mentioned something about the responders, people who respond to the events. I feel like there needs to be something implemented in each college to where responders can respond quicker to a form of mass shooting than they currently are, because it takes a long time for responders to actually show up to the scene. Even people on campus, they don't know specifically where the shooter is until the next shots are fired. In the case of locking down the doors, keeping it quiet, turning off the lights, there's no communication. I feel like there should be a system implemented in all campuses to where they're able to signal and at least signal and suggest that there is a shooter in this vicinity, whereas security could be in a whole entire side of campus, nowhere near. I feel like that's something that should also be implemented into schools.
Yeah, I guess they've tried to get a system out through the cell phones of calling it an active shooter. But then what's the follow-up? How do you, like you say, how do we know we're clear? How can we use the cell phones? Because that is the best technology within the school, because assuming you have 15,000 students, you probably have close to that number of cell phones. And I don't know that calling home is the right thing in that situation versus being ready to get a response. It's in this building, so they need to take extra precaution. Or, hey, we're in this building, we're in the clear, but we still need to stay in the lockdown. And I think it's a very good point. But a lot of that comes from the drill. So if they're not taking it seriously, and there isn't some type of systematic notification, what I've been amazed at with these shootings is it's like 3, 4, 10, 20 people getting killed, but they have the weapons to kill thousands of people.
They do.
And so, we've been very lucky to date that it hasn't been a bigger carnage at any of these campuses, because there surely were the students there most of the time, and there surely was the weaponry, it seems like, at the schools at the time, but something went wrong. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we're ever going to get a full solution. It's become a part of, like you say, it's a social issue. It's become a part of our society. I think the best thing we can do is try to care for one another, try to find more help for the students that are in that situation, or I shouldn't say students, anyone that can get to that situation where they feel this is the answer. I would hope that one of us could have maybe made that extra phone call to somebody, or taken that warning signal and taken it to the next level, even if we thought it was so like, oh, there's no way this would never happen, and doing something about it. It might, if we stop one, maybe stop two, maybe just, it's a snowball effect the other way, which is addressing individuals and making sure we're taking care of each other. We're the best. There's no weapon we can handle that's going to solve this. The best defense towards something like this is communication. And we just don't know what's going on in somebody else's life. We know what's going on in our life. We don't know what's going on in everybody else's life. So asking, checking in with people. It's something that we do with my programs, that we do at these lower level age groups, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. We try to connect with the kids in a way that gets them to talk about anything. And we take everything seriously. It doesn't matter what it is, because I don't know that item for them that's so weighing them down, I don't know where that goes if it doesn't get handled. And it seems like there's a history with these active shooters. It didn't just start yesterday.
No.
It started years ago. So do we start addressing this at a younger age and try to stop it here, or do we let it continue on to these? It seems like the average shooters are in the late teens or adults is when it's happening. But if the problem was in the 5th grade and we never dealt with it, it's got a lot of harboring to get there. So something could have been done. I mean, I think it's everybody's problem. It's not the school's problem. It's not the city's problem. It's not the police's problem. It's our problem. It's a social problem.